Most businesses fail. 70% of businesses and 88% of Black businesses fail within the first year. Not because their idea was bad. It's because they had a combination of lack of funding and they burnt out because they didn't have the right infrastructure in place to help them maintain. So if you are the cog in the wheel, one of your biggest priorities should be your own mental health and well-being. And you structure your business that allows you the freedom to get rest. It's easy early on to bank on, I can exert 8 more hours on top of what I do for my 9 to 5, but that's going to catch up with you. We can't run like a machine forever. That being said, we have to consider our perspective amongst our community. We have to take care of our well-being. And sometimes it means to retreat ourselves from our community to have more headspace to focus on the very things we need to do during that time period to actually grow. Listen, when it comes to sales pitches, there's the good, there's the not so good, and there's the ones that haunt you as you're trying to fall asleep. To keep your pitches winning you deals, you need that wow factor. And HubSpot has a new resource that can help. There are 3 steps to a perfect pitch. It is your go-to guide for crafting a strategic pitch that works. Inside, you'll find guidance on making a compelling narrative, tips for creating tension, and a blueprint for highlighting your unique value proposition. It's absolutely everything you need to make a first impression your prospects cannot ignore. And by the way, it's completely free. Take your pitch to the next level and start closing more deals today. Visit HubSpot.com/pitch to download the guide for free.
Are you an emerging brand that would like to grow and scale faster? Troy is an award-winning growth strategist, top 100 marketing podcaster, author, investor, founder, and keynote speaker. Talk about your day quit and how you went full-time into your business.
I think proper preparation prevents poor performance, and I can't stress that enough. You definitely want to have more than enough income to compensate for at least 6 months of runway. And also be mindful that just adjusting your mindset to, I'm not working a 9 to 5 to provide, I'm working a 9 to 5 to fund my business. And so I went through a transition of shifting my mindset of how I look at this 9 to 5 to now employ and fund my business.
How did you raise capital to start your business?
Thankfully for me, I bootstrapped. And then 2, I'm very good at moving in a very lean way. I think people think they need to have a massive surplus to launch their business. Now, keep in mind, legally, there is some nuances depending on what type of business you're doing and everything else, of course. But for what I'm doing, and for full disclosure, I am a consultant. I'm a growth advisor, a growth strategist. Really, it's my brain, it's my ability, it's my perspective, it's what's being sold as a service. So SaaS, strategy as a service, is kind of my area of genius. And so knowing that my costs to maintain and launch my business wasn't a lot of money. And then also I've learned in many cases, closed mouths don't get fed. I think we feel as maybe Black entrepreneurs, because maybe most of us are coming from a 9 to 5, we have this sense of we have to be in a certain way to get anything versus, oh no, I have to remove myself from this 9 to 5 mentality. And as a business owner, own that I'm a business owner and make the ask. So whatever I need, I can build connections. And I'm sure either someone's going to give me the advice or we're going to barter in exchange for what we're trying to do. If I can't make any profit in the first 30 to 90 days of me doing this, then that tells me this isn't worth me pursuing, even if I were to try to get more capital.
What's up, digital world? You're listening to the I Digress audio experience with Troy Sandidge. Social media, marketing, storytelling, business, culture, and more. Coming to you in 3, 2, 1.
You dropped some huge value bombs there. How did you find your path?
I think you have to be comfortable with adapting to uncomfortability. I like to say adapt, which means always do all possible things. I think a lot of people can give you motivation, inspiration, and quotes, but there's always a negative. When I say adapt, no matter what happens, I'm always going to do what's possible in this moment. And when I keep that headspace, that keeps me humble, that keeps me driven, and that gives me a good, healthy perspective to not get too complacent, but still you're content at the same time. So I always apply that kind of methodology to things. There's one season that you're growing, and there's another season that things are slowing down. And I think people are too reactive and they're not proactive. When you're proactive as an entrepreneur, I'm already knowing there's going to be seasons where I may not be financially stable. So that means when I'm having an abundance, I put money away. I put things away. I connect, I network. I don't drop the ball when it comes to conversations to my community, because when I'm down, those are the very people who's going to keep me moving forward, keep me stable in those seasons. And so, especially for us Black entrepreneurs, it's imperative that we be proactive. It's imperative that we plan ahead, and not the moment we get a big payday or a big new client, I don't make a move right now until something is signed and it hits my account. Because as a Black entrepreneur, I have made moves in my past off the impression that this person, this client, this partnership was going to go through, not realizing they backed out. I'm cut with an expense I can't afford. I'm cut with things I can't do. Or the worst thing that kind of scrubs our ego, we post all about it on social media, what we got, and then we got to come back later like, I didn't get it. Something didn't happen. And then we just feel some type of way. I thought you were an entrepreneur. I thought you were this and that. And so when you learn how to plan and be proactive and move in silence and knowing I won't post on social till I got it in the bag, until it's done, then that gives you a lot of breathing room to cut out all the noise to focus on what your business was meant to do in the first place.
What do you need right now that you don't have to move the needle forward?
I think right now what I would need the most is time. Time is the most expensive, priceless commodity that you have. And as entrepreneurs, we forget that. We exchange time for money through our 9-to-5s, and we may take that over to our entrepreneurship journey. But at a certain point, if you want to scale your business, you actually need to buy yourself more time, which means investing in delegations of people and processes and technologies, giving yourself the headspace. We can't run gun 14, 20 hours. Sometimes we need 3 days of headspace to make a very strategic, calculated move that can actually boost your profitability in no time. And so my challenge has been, as of recently, is time. I have grown my business to where I'm in a lot of things. My clients are doing well. I am blessed to say that I am doing well. And to get to that next step, I need to reduce the amount of load that I'm doing for my day-to-day so I can strategically make the right moves to expand kind of where I'm going.
Someone's listening, Troy, and they said, gosh, Troy said I'm doing well. How do you define well?
Well is subjective. For the listeners, I want you to keep that in mind. When I say I'm doing well, it doesn't mean I'm doing great in my mind. I have a North Star that I'm chasing, and people on the outside may say, I'll just settle for what he's got. And in my mind, I'm not even close to where I want to go. And so we have to consider, when we're saying we're doing well, your mountain of success may be different than my definition of mountain success. And it may look different, it may seem different, but it's your journey. And it may have the same amount of energy that it costs to get there, because we're both pushing ourselves to the next level. So when I say I'm doing well, I'm saying I have a good understanding of where I am financially. I have a good bearings of where I am mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And I feel really sound and calm in my moves right now when I'm defining, when I'm saying I'm doing well. What I would like to say and add to that is that what I define as being great is that I am moving forward in this next phase that I want, and I'm seeing it clear. There's no haze, and I'm getting at least a few brownie points of direction that it's going to work while maintaining what I already have. My goal is I should not have to exert more of my time and energy to grow, because that means if that's the case, it's too heavy bearing on myself to maintain. But if I can maintain what I have and still grow with less energy of Troy and more energy of exerting to other teams, collaboration and partnerships, that keeps me very stable. And that means I'm doing great. Are you an aspiring entrepreneur or business savvy individual ready to take matters into your own hands? Imagine starting a new venture with low startup costs, entering a growing market, and having the opportunity to shape your own future. Picture that you're at the helm of a successful delivery business, partnering with one of the world's most prominent companies, Amazon, through their Amazon Delivery Service program. They are searching for hands-on leaders with grit and determination, people who are ready to hire, coach, and motivate a top-notch team of delivery associates. Maybe people like you. And here's the thing, you don't need logistics experience. You'll gain access to exclusive deals, services, training, business coaching, and state-of-the-art technology. As you launch and grow your business, you'll have the support of Amazon's team at every step. So, are you ready to build the future of delivery and embark on a rewarding journey with the Amazon Delivery Service Partner Program? Learn more and apply right now by going to amazon.com/radio. That's amazon.com/radio. And you can also click on the link in the show notes as well. Take the first step toward a brighter future today.
We know that entrepreneurship is about risk and rewards. Talk about your worst moment in business or your most costly mistake, and what was your takeaway?
Well, there's so many to count. I wouldn't even know where to begin. One big example that comes to mind, I got so caught up in the idea of working with this client, with these group of individuals, and thought this was going to put me on the map, and didn't do my due diligence in what my contract said. Sometimes we jump on an opportunity because we see their network, their valuation is so humongous that we're going to win by association. And that's great in theory, but when it comes to business, without a contract, without legal counsel, without things signed and expressed, very clarified, you can be cut out of significantly in deals. This particular instance, I helped grow a business to about $3.2 million in a year. I still didn't have the confidence in myself to even deem the amount of money I wanted to charge, so I charged much less. So I worked with under the intent that they're going to pay me, that they're going to see the amount of money that I make them, they're going to give me equity, it's going to be all these great things. At the end of that period, they got what they needed, they grew, and I got a gift card for $500, and I got a stipend for $1,500. They made $3.2 million, and the valuation went up to $27.6 million, and they're still successful and in business today. Now, some people will tell you that's just business. No, that's just me at that time being ignorant and not holding people accountable to an actual contract. So the thought is to make sure you evaluate your ability, but also what I should have done that I do now moving forward in those situations is this is my value, what I'm going to do, but I'm also going to tie in a percentage to what my efforts residually perform for you down the road. So that way I can get residuals as well, because you're still surviving and thriving off of my hard work in the infancy phases. And so that was a big mistake I did, just to not consider the contracts. And I find even that's one example, but there's many examples where I've taken on client work and didn't have a contract signed, or the contract didn't cover certain nuances. You know, we've done more work than we should have for the money. We didn't have boundaries. And then somehow you blink and this feels like a 9-to-5 job when they're supposed to be your client. No. So that was one example. The other example I would say that I've learned and I've definitely made a big pillar forward in is to just make sure my business aligns with my life. We take for granted, earlier I've talked about time is the most expensive commodity that you have. We take for granted time. And though we chose to be in business, that doesn't mean your family did and those key relationships in your life. And so make sure as you're pursuing your entrepreneurship journey for the intent of being successful or wealthy or generational wealth or making a bigger impact in the world, that you don't forget the people who are there with you every step of the way, watching you struggle, survive, thrive, and make things come alive.
Talk about marriage and entrepreneurship.
This is a phenomenal question. And for starters, we entrepreneurs don't talk about this stuff. We don't talk about it enough. And that is a problem. I would not be who I am, where I am, with what I have without my wife. That is not me saying that out of semantics. That is not me saying it out of formality. That is me saying that because it is the truth. One of the biggest reasons marriage fails, financial instability. And entrepreneurs, you are willingly choosing to take on more risk with the high possibility of being in a massive state of financial instability. So you need someone not only who aligns with your vision, but gives you the grace to fail. Keyword there, because we're all going to fail. We're going to fail thousands of times, micro times or big times before we hit it big or succeed. And entrepreneurship comes with a certain type of lifestyle. 9 to 5 in most businesses, you're done. In entrepreneurship, that's almost a second relationship. So you have to balance the two, get clarity. And you know what? I've learned in my years of entrepreneurship to consult her. She may not know what I know in my mind regarding the logistics of my business, but she knows me as a person. And we can be too narrow-minded in our goals, and that significant other can be there to guide you, call you out when you seem too stressed. You seem too deep in the weeds. You need a break. Maybe that's too much, or they're not getting enough time. These are the same people that we convince ourselves we're doing everything for, but let's not miss out on the key milestones in that relationship off the intent of trying to grow a business. You can have a successful marriage, a healthy marriage, and a lasting marriage while also having a really good business. You can have your cake and eat it too. It's about figuring out the right process and way to do so. And even if that's communication of, hey, to your partner, for the next 6 months, I'm going to be in deep work mode. I may not be going on vacation. We maybe have to be a little more frugal with our spending. But by the end of this, my hope and goal is that we'll double our income or we'll achieve this thing. And so it's just communicating along the way. And that's a big part of a successful marriage and ultimately a successful business. The Product Boss, hosted by Jacqueline Snyder and Mina Kunlo-Sitep, is brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. Featured in Inc. as the country's most sought-after product experts, Jacqueline and Mina deliver a workshop-style strategy hour of social media and marketing strategies so you can up-level as the boss of your business, as the boss that you are. As women entrepreneurs and product experts, they blend life as a boss mom and female business owner in this ever-changing online world, having its ups and downs. With episodes like My Sales Are Down 30%, How Do I Get More People to Discover My Brand? To From Burning Out to Burning Bright, How to Master Your Mindset to Overcome Burnout, and so many other episodes. Learn how to take your physical product sales and strategies to the next level to create your dream life with host Jacqueline and Mina. Listen to The Product Boss wherever you get your podcasts.
What does self-care look like for Troy?
Self-care for Troy is always a work in progress. I'm a recovering workaholic. I'll be very transparent, but I'm learning my chronotype. My chronotype, I'm a night owl. And so most times coming through a 9 to 5, I felt really bad about not being my most productive self really early in the morning. But once I learned my chronotype, I rearranged my whole entire work schedule and many things in my life to fit the type of day where Troy is the most active and at his best self. Now, that took me a long time to figure out. I didn't know a lot of the stuff that I'm saying to you right now. I was very ignorant in a lot of things. So that would be a big part of it. The other part is understanding we've adapted a lot of bad habits that many people in our family or our community consolidate because they themselves are not trying to do what we're trying to do. But when you're different, and you are different if you're an entrepreneur, you have to eat different. Let's just be honest. You got to eat different. You have to exercise. I have to give all my body all the different things that it needs: rest, sleep, exercise, even vacations and breaks to maximize my productivity so I can achieve my goals. And for me, I found a good way to approach adapting and modifying yourself is to do 2 things differently for 30 days. Not that you're going to do it exactly right every day, but the fact that you had the intention every day you woke up, I know I need to do these 2 things. Even if you didn't do them, you held yourself accountable that I'm going to try again tomorrow. And I find that it doesn't matter the what, it's all about the outcome and the actual change. Because once you can see yourself changing, it's easier to adapt to do more changes to not only better your life, but the likelihood that you can make your business successful.
Talk about mental wellness and entrepreneurship.
Ooh, this is very critical for any successful Black entrepreneur. Because unlike many counterpart entrepreneurs from different ethnicities and races, if I can be very open, frank, we still have a community where when people are going against the grain and pursuing entrepreneurship, even in this day and age, it still seems foreign. It almost seems impossible. And most people can't wrap their head around your vision of what you're trying to do. The other part of that is many still live in fear. they're traumatized. And so they project their fear and traumatization on your vision of what you're trying to do as an entrepreneur, which means there's friction. And friction begets negativity, and negativity begets weight. And as you take on too much weight because you're taking on too much noise because we want our community to approve of our positioning, that creates mental health issues. That keeps us stressed because as a people, we are designed by years and years and years of generations to be a community that moves in sync. And entrepreneurship is pulling us out of this sync that most are still in 9-to-5s, and they're not doing the things that we're doing. We have a lack of education. We have a lack of funds. All these different variables out of their control influences their direction to how they see you in your pursuit of your entrepreneurship journey. And that's a big toll that a lot of entrepreneurs, specifically Black entrepreneurs, don't talk enough about. We are unicorns. There aren't that many of us. It takes a different type of exercise and mental well-being to surpass that. And so that's alignment with your faith. If you're religious, that's aligned with meditation. That's aligned with finding the people in your circle that are going to be your net as you're trying to find your way. And even after you find your way, to keep you going. Most businesses fail. 70% of businesses and 88% of Black businesses fail within the first year. Not because their idea was bad. It's because they had a combination of lack of funding and they burnt out because they didn't have the right infrastructure in place to help them maintain. So if you are the cog in the wheel, one of your biggest priorities should be your own mental health and well-being. And you structure your business that allows you the freedom to get rest. It's easy early on to bank on, I can exert 8 more hours on top of what I do for my 9-to-5, but that's going to catch up with you. We can't run like a machine forever. That being said, we have to consider our perspective amongst our community. We have to take care of our well-being. And sometimes it means to retreat ourselves from our community to have more headspace to focus on the very things we need to do during that time period to actually grow. If you don't, you're going to feel the taxation of being tired, of being frustrated and stressed, and that will cloud your emotional EQ to see and forget your goal and give up. And I would rather you retreat yourself, build your structure, build the sustainability to do what you were born to do than to invite everyone into their headspace and influence your mental health, and you actually just achieve what you want to do. Because I'll say this, one person told me that, and it stuck with me to this very day. They said, how dare you not do what you were meant to do out of fear or because you didn't prepare yourself? If someone didn't do what they did, we wouldn't have the cure for this. We wouldn't have this technology. We wouldn't have the very things that we now have adapted to our livelihood because someone chose to go out on the path, prepare themselves, and do what they do accordingly. And that is directly tied to our mental health and well-being.
If you lost everything and you had to rebuild in 30 days, what industry and why?
Tech industry for sure, because you have people who need to integrate and update. So there's a massive audience there in which you can get by high volume. And on the flip side, if you're on the cutting edge of technology, that means you're indisposable to new technologies that your competitors probably still haven't done. Plus, they have a lot of disposable income. So that way, at the very least, if we needed $5,000, $25,000, things like that, whether directly or in a multitude of things, they probably could write that off and get it to you much faster than other industries could.
There are so many brands and businesses that are dominating. Talk about a brand or a business that's dominating that you admire and why.
The easy answer, I think, would be the people at OpenAI, ChatGPT. The reason why I admire is that most people are now being familiar with them. They've been working at this for 4+ years. And ironically enough, what people are now loving and using at a massive rate, they boost their valuation to $1 billion+ now, was an afterthought project to do one thing. And once the world got a hold of it, oh no, this is the thing that people want to use to do everything. And I say that to say, for especially us Black entrepreneurs, that, y'all be watching TV and you have an idea and you're like, man, I thought of that. You might have thought of that, but you didn't act on it because you thought, it's a small project. No one's going to care. If I dared you to put that to market, the market's going to tell you what the value is of. And keep in mind, we have a tendency to lean in on our community, our church, our family, but they're not business folk. They're not the folk who want to buy and give this evaluation or investors. So if we put our stuff to market and see what out there, let the market tell you. You might be surprised what your air quote little project is. Might be very valuable. The other group I'm looking at that to me is very inspiring right now is the New York Times. What? Print? What has that got to do with anything? I looked at them over the pandemic and everyone said print was dead. And rightfully so, I can understand some sentiment of that. We deal with 5 generations and only 3 of them are even used to getting newspapers or remember getting newspapers to the front door. However, they have positioned and shifted their business model. They still have kept their namesake and it still matters. Content that still comes out of that business still matters. And so what am I saying from that? There are many businesses who were super successful before this pandemic. And now they're at a crossroads where everything that I did to get here is not working. That doesn't mean your business is over. That doesn't mean you can't rekindle the flame or the fire that you had from a brand positioning. It's about pivoting and shifting to match what the market demands and reverse engineer it back to what you provide as a business. And if you can do that, you can still thrive in this new environment that we're dealing with right now.
What is your ideal client?
That's a phenomenal question. And I feel like every other day it changes. But I would say an ideal client of mine is one that 100% will not flinch at my price. I say that because many Black entrepreneurs tend to devalue our price because we turned down an opportunity that was lower and we're worried about what's the next one. But when we look at it from a financial perspective, it's not about how many I have. It's about, does this outcome match the output? So if I have 3 clients that pay me exactly what I want for the month, I ain't worried about the 10 that I didn't take on. And so that's coming from a mindset of scarcity. And we want to come from a mindset of abundance. And so for me, the client has to be able to not flinch at my price. I'm not lowering my price. I'm not discounting my price. I'm not even going to give you the cash flow window to stretch it out unless it strategically makes sense for me by case basis. I say that as the first answer to this question because Troy, over the years, I'm a very passionate person. And most Black entrepreneurs, we're passionate. We care. We want to make an impact. We're driven by that to our core. And what happens? They tell us our story. They tell you their story, what they're trying to do. And our heart tingles and we just want to help. And we help. And then slowly we don't get paid. Or we don't get paid what we want. And little behold, they get what they need and they're gone. And now we're out thousands of dollars. We're out all this money that we now have to recamp, that we put our own money into. So to protect ourselves, rule number 1, if you can't pay my price and I flinch at it, we ain't doing business. I don't care what it is because I got to take care of myself first. I can't help you, I take care of me. Number 2, now that we know that they can financially afford me, do they align with my stylistic approach? We have to have wisdom and we have to be aware that why are you choosing me? Why are you choosing me? Are you choosing me because you need to have a quota of Black business, which is fine. Whatever it is, sometimes we need the money. But I just need to understand psychologically, why are you choosing me? And will you believe and use my product or service the intentional way it was meant to do? I like to think of my business like a lawyer. I want to make sure I can get a high win rate. Because you ain't messing with my brand reputation because you saying my service is doing work for you. Oh, no, honey. I need to make sure I'm going to have a good win rate. And so financially, they can afford me. 2, they align with what I do and see the vision. And 3, are they going to be fun to work with? I find I should not have to feel any type of way. I want to have fun. What I do is my zone of genius. I'm good at it, but I want to have fun with my clients. And so those are my 3 things. Financially sound, make sure that they align with my direction and my product or my service, and we're going to have fun. Digital marketers, this one's for you. I've got 30 seconds to tell you about Wix Studio, the web platform for agencies and enterprises. So here are a few things you can do in 30 seconds or less when you manage projects on Wix Studio. Work in sync with your team on one canvas. Reuse templates, widgets, and sections across sites. Create a client kit for seamless handovers and leverage best-in-class SEO defaults across all your Wix sites. Looks like time's up, but the list keeps going. Step into Wix Studio to see more. Visit wix.com/studio today.
We're going to talk about an attitude of gratitude. And I want you to have what I call a thank fest. And I want you to thank situations or circumstances that has made you who you are.
So as someone from Chicago, as we say, get it out of the mud, I'm a living proof that if you learn how to just stay the course, learn how to network, you may not have the direct lines, you may not have the funds or the investors, all the connections, but you can still carve out a good path forward for you if you stick to the plan. I say that to say that I had everything in the world against me from the day I was born, no cap, to try to pursue what I was now born to do. Was 3 months premature, born 2 pounds, 2 ounces. And so I'm coming out of the womb fighting for my life, right? And then I had to have immediate surgery 3 days after that. And then fast forward, I lost my birth mother. And, you navigate that as a Black man trying to do something of themselves. And, you're coming from a very strong blue collar family. My family, very religious, very sound. But at the time, I'm at a crossroads where we're seeing new technologies. The world that we know it now wasn't the world 20 years ago. And what we know as social media and marketing as of now wasn't even the same case 5 or 10 years ago. And so as a young Black entrepreneur pursuing a space many of us aren't there, that I can even lean on, and having to still find my path, but that's still true to myself, my essence, my voice, took some time. I'm so grateful to be here in this moment because I can expound on that, but also just express that we can keep our integrity. We can do it in a way that feels right to us and still be successful, still make an impact, as long as you create a growth plan that aligns for all of those things. I'm grateful for situations where I got let go. I got let go of some organizations that I made big money for them, made big impact for them. And they let me go in part because they felt threatened, or their ego felt scratched because who was this young Black man coming and making an impact? Pride myself of being a change agent, coming in, doing all these different things and making things happen, because I love to make things happen fast so people can see results and get buy-in. And so in times I've learned, sometimes it doesn't matter how much you do. If someone doesn't like you for who you are or feel threatened by you, they will do anything they can to tear you down. But in those moments, I learned to be resilient. And I learned that in spite of everything that may happen, whether you get let go from a job or a client cuts you off, preparation prevents performance. They can't change my ability. That doesn't change my skill set. I've met many times where I have lost a job and I couldn't get hired for months because my brand and my ability, I still got client work. I still made sure all the bills were paid, took care of my wife. We never missed a meal, simply because I knew my talent. And so understanding that gives me a little bit sense of calm, that despite anything that may happen, because of your talent, you can always rebuild and build it better. The last thing I would say in this moment, I think being in a place that keeps you humble. I look back over the last 8 years of my career, and if I really get really micro, the last 18 months, I launched a book. I spoke on some of the biggest stages in my life. I emceed for the biggest B2B marketing event that featured President Barack Obama and Viola Davis, which we met off stage and hugged, and I had a whole moment and I cried. I did all those things and built an agency and pushed myself in so many different avenues, but all of that came about after so many years that no one saw me. No one knew who I was. All the live streams that you may see me now was more eloquent in my articulation of my thoughts, and my animation was years of practice. And what do I say? How do I answer a question? How do I sound authoritative and get my thoughts together and feel when I hear the recording, that sounds like me? That takes years. And so I'm grateful for those years, because off of those pillars, I am who I am. And those opportunities have led me to see there's so much more we as Black entrepreneurs don't even realize we could achieve and do because of our limiting beliefs, and because we didn't know our abilities and our business could transcribe to so many other areas. And that only comes with time. And so embrace that journey and enjoy the ride, and be willing to be as fluid as water and see what happens. You can start off in one industry and make 10 times as much money in a totally different industry, simply transferring your ability and work.
Troy, what is our biggest takeaway from our conversation today? What do you want the audience to leave with?
I think the first thing is to give yourself some grace. Be thankful that you have an idea that can actually be converted into money. Not many people are blessed with that talent or ability, and just be in the moment, understanding that the vision that you have is yours. It's meant for you to see it through, no one else. I think the other thing is to consider we're all on our own path and journey. And while I'm giving my own thoughts from my perspective, whether my struggles, but also my success, you have to quantify that to align with your own journey of what you determine as success and where you're trying to come from. I think the other thing to take away and think about is that there is always a way, if you adapt, always do all possible things to move things forward. But also understanding when you're coming into business, you must think like a business person, not a 9-to-5 or as a side gig. You want to be able to commit. Commitment doesn't mean you have to immediately stop everything you're doing to put yourself in an unfortunate financial situation because of your passion. Passion only gets you so far. It must be in its proper place. You must have things in order so you can be sustainable in order to scale and see it through. Every condition is different when it comes to business, but especially as Black entrepreneurs, we have to be double as cautious, but also double as driven. We can't hold ourselves back out of pride. We have to remember, ask for help when we need to, have ourselves mental health boundaries, physical boundaries, business boundaries. We can't tell everyone all of our business, but also be mindful that we can't scale without a community that understands us, that hears us, and can be an advocate for us. Not everyone who knew from you back in the day should be your business partner or one to evaluate if your business is going to be successful. If you want to make real money, you have to go where the money is. And sometimes as Black businesses, as someone who has done it himself, we must go to places where we may feel uncomfortable, and we're among the few with the intent that when we do get to the other side, we create a bigger opening to help those behind us have an easier path in their entrepreneurship journey as well.
And that's a wrap. We hope you enjoyed this episode of I Digress. What was your takeaway? Care to share your thoughts and tag Troy on social media? You can find him on all platforms at Find Troy. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a review or comment for this episode from wherever you're listening. Looking for a marketing strategist to build the structure, strategies, and systems you need to get the success you want and the ROI you desire in your business? Book a discovery call to talk with Troy at findtroy.com. And as Troy's philosophy goes, imagination is the engine, content is the fuel, social media is the highway, marketing is the roadmap, sales is the destination, culture is the GPS. Thanks for listening.